The rain had just begun to fall when Emily Parker's car broke down on the narrow road that led to Willow Creek, a small town nestled somewhere between nowhere and forever. She wasn't supposed to be here. She was a city girl, coffee in one hand, deadlines in the other, but life, as always, had other plans. She had been on her way to Los Angeles for a photography assignment when her GPS went wild, the car engine sputtered, and fate quietly redirected her path. The sound of the rain hitting the windshield felt like a song, unfamiliar, melancholy, and oddly comforting. She sighed, resting her head on the steering wheel, wondering why every good plan in her life somehow ended up like this, half broken, half beautiful. Just then, a faint light appeared in her rearview mirror. A pickup truck slowed down, and a man stepped out, wearing a flannel shirt, jeans, and an easy kind of confidence that only comes from knowing who you are. "Need a hand?" he asked, his voice low, deep, and calm like the woods around them. Emily hesitated. She had watched enough true crime documentaries to know how this could go wrong, but something about his eyes, brown, steady, and warm, made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt in years. "Yeah, I think my car is dead." "Well," he said, smiling a little, "lucky for you, I'm pretty good with dead things." He lifted the hood, checked a few cables, and within minutes confirmed what Emily already feared. "Battery's gone. You'll have to stay in town till morning. Closest mechanic won't open till 8. Emily frowned. "Town?" He chuckled. "Willow Creek. Don't worry, it's not on the map, but it's real." He offered her a ride. She hesitated again, but nodded finally. The rain had grown heavier, and the wind made it clear that refusing would be foolish. "Name's Jack," he said as she climbed into his truck. "Emily," she replied. They drove through winding roads lined with pine trees, their branches glistening with raindrops. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was comfortable, the kind that says everything without words. Willow Creek appeared like a dream, small, sleepy, lit by the soft yellow glow of street lamps. The main street had a diner, a bookstore, and a bed and breakfast that looked like it had time-traveled from the 1950s. Jack dropped her there and spoke to the owner, Mrs. Caldwell, a kind-faced woman with silver hair. "She'll take good care of you," he said. Emily thanked him, and he smiled. Not a polite smile, but the kind that reaches the eyes and stays there for a while. "I'll check on your car tomorrow," he said before driving off into the mist. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. The rain outside whispered softly against the window, and her mind kept replaying the moment she met Jack. There was something about him, the ease, the quiet strength, the way he looked at her like he could see the parts of her she'd hidden from everyone else. She didn't even know him, but somehow she couldn't stop thinking about him. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the room, and the world smelled like rain and fresh bread. Emily went downstairs, where Mrs. Caldwell was serving pancakes and coffee. "Jack's already gone to look at your car," she said kindly. "He's a good man, that one. Everyone here knows him." "What does he do?" Emily asked. "Owns the old barn by the river. He restores things, furniture, old houses, broken hearts maybe." She winked, and Emily blushed without knowing why. When she reached the garage later that morning, Jack was there, sleeves rolled up, grease on his hands, and that same unbothered smile on his face. "Good news," he said. "I got your battery replaced. Should be good to go." Emily looked at the car, then back at him. For some reason, leaving suddenly felt wrong. "I can't thank you enough," she said. "You just did," he replied. But before she could leave, Jack's dog, a golden retriever named Max, ran up to her, tail wagging furiously. Emily laughed, crouched to pet him, and something about that small, simple moment made the world feel right again. "He likes you," he said. "He doesn't like most people." "Maybe he's got good taste," she teased. He smiled again, and for a second, time stood still. Emily planned to leave that afternoon, but when Jack mentioned the town's annual harvest festival that evening, she hesitated. "It's not much, but it's kind of our thing. Lights, music, bad dancing, good pie." She found herself saying yes before she could think twice. That night, Willow Creek came alive under strings of golden lights. Kids laughed, couples danced, and the smell of cinnamon and apple cider filled the air. Emily wore a simple blue dress she'd found in her troop case, and Jack was waiting by the river, looking like a story she hadn't read yet. "You clean up nice," she said, smiling. "So do you," he replied softly. They talked for hours about cities and small towns, about running away and coming home, about everything and nothing. For the first time in a long while, Emily felt seen, really seen. When the music slowed, Jack extended his hand. "Dance with me?" he asked. She hesitated. "I don't dance." "Neither do I," he said, grinning. And just like that, they were swaying under the fairy lights, their laughter blending with the soft hum of the night. It wasn't perfect. He stepped on her foot once, she tripped twice, but it was real. And in that moment, it was enough. When the festival ended, they walked by the river. The moon reflected on water, silver and soft. "You'll be leaving tomorrow," Jack said quietly. "Yeah," Emily whispered. "Back to the city, to the noise, to everything I thought I wanted." "And now?" he asked. She looked at him, at the quiet strength in his eyes, and said, "Now I'm not so sure anymore." He didn't say anything, just took her hand. And for the first time in years, Emily didn't feel lost. She felt found. The next morning, Willow Creek was quiet again. The festival decorations still hung across Main Street, swaying softly in the cool morning breeze. Emily stood by her car, her suitcase resting against the door, but something inside her refused to turn the key. Jack was standing near the garage, talking to an old man about lumber. When their eyes met, the rest of the world faded. He walked over, brushing sawdust from his hands. "So," he said, "heading back to the big city?" She nodded, trying to smile. "Guess so. You don't sound too excited about it." "Maybe because I'm not," she said honestly. He looked at her for a long moment, then simply said, "Sometimes the things we think we want change when we find something real." His voice was soft, almost lost in the morning wind, but his words sank deep into her. Emily wanted to say something, anything, but the words tangled in her throat. Instead, she handed him a small Polaroid photo she had taken the night before. It was of the two of them at the festival, laughing mid-dance. "So you don't forget me," she said. Jack smiled faintly. "You're hard to forget, Emily Parker." She drove away, but every mile between her and Willow Creek felt heavier. The city skyline appeared hours later, tall, bright, familiar, yet it felt foreign now. Her apartment was exactly as she had left it, tidy, modern, silent. She set her camera on the table, but for the first time in her career, she didn't feel like taking pictures. Every shot she had ever taken suddenly felt empty, missing something she couldn't name. Days turned into weeks. Emily buried herself in work, photo shoots, deadlines, the endless rhythm of city life. But her mind kept drifting back to Willow Creek, to the rain, to Max's wagging tail, to Jack's steady hands and quiet eyes. She found herself scrolling through her phone, looking at the one picture she had taken of him by the garage. She told herself she was just reminiscing, but deep down she knew it was something else, something that scared her, because it felt too real, too soon. One night, her friend Chloe came over with wine and the kind of brutal honesty only best friends can offer. "You've been spaced out for weeks. Who is he?" Emily tried to laugh it off. "No one." "Liar," Chloe said, grinning. "Your no one has a name, doesn't he?" Emily sighed, staring at her glass. "Jack. He's from this small town. Helped me when my car broke down. I don't even know why I can't stop thinking about him." "Because," Chloe said softly, "for once, it wasn't about a deadline or client. It was about you." Those words hit her harder than she expected. For the first time, Emily realized how long it had been since she'd felt genuinely connected to someone, without filters, without performance. A few days later, she received a letter. Not an email, not a text, an actual handwritten letter with her name written in strong, careful handwriting. Inside was a Polaroid photo she had given Jack. On the back, he had written, "Willow Creek misses its photographer, especially one person." Her heart raced. She laughed, cried, and read it again like someone holding on to a lifeline. She wanted to go back, desperately, but work called. A big exhibition was coming up, one that could define her career. The timing couldn't have been worse. She told herself she'd visit after the show, just one more week. But life didn't wait. 3 days before the exhibition, Emily received a call from Mrs. Caldwell. Her voice trembled. "Emily, honey, there's been an accident. Jack was helping someone fix a roof. The ladder slipped. He's in the hospital." The world blurred. Emily didn't remember booking the flight or driving the rental car. She only remembered the ache in her chest as she raced through the hospital corridors in Willow Creek, searching for him. When she finally saw him, lying there with his arm in a sling and a few cuts on his forehead, she froze. He looked pale, but still managed a crooked smile. "You really came?" "Of course I came," she whispered, tears spilling down her face. "You scared me to death." He laughed softly. "Guess I like being rescued sometimes too." Emily stayed by his side for the next few days, helping him with small things, pouring coffee, fluffing pillows, pretending not to notice when his hand brushed hers. The town came by to visit him, but whenever the room grew quiet, they would just sit in silence, comfortable and complete. When he was finally discharged, he insisted on showing her the river again. They walked slowly, the same path as before, except this time there was no festival, no music, only the sound of water and wind. "You didn't have to come," he said quietly. "I wanted to," I replied. "You think I'd let some ladder accident keep me away?" He chuckled, looking at me with that same warmth. "You belong here more than you think, you know?" "Do I?" "Yeah," he said. "This place has been missing its color since you left." I smiled, but inside I was torn. My exhibition was only 2 days away. Going back meant leaving him again. Staying meant walking away from everything I had worked for. For years, my career had been my entire identity. But now, standing there under the wide blue sky, I wondered if success meant anything without someone to share it with. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching the stars over Willow Creek. Somewhere out there was the life I had built, but here was the life I wanted.
The next morning, Emily woke before sunrise. The air was cool and soft, the kind of stillness that exists only before the world wakes up. She looked at Jack sleeping on the couch in Mrs. Caldwell's living room, his arms still wrapped in bandages, his face calm. For a moment, she wished she could stop time right there. Just hold on to this quiet, safe, ordinary beauty. But reality had a way of creeping in. Her phone buzzed on the table, a reminder for her flight back to Los Angeles, her exhibition, her life. She stood there for a long while, torn between two worlds, the one she'd built and the one she'd stumbled into. Jack stirred and opened his eyes. "You're leaving," he said softly, not as a question, but as something he already knew. She nodded. "The exhibition's tomorrow. I can't just—" "I know," he said, forcing a smile. "You've worked your whole life for it." She swallowed hard. "I'll come back," she whispered. "I promise." He looked at her, his eyes filled with the kind of sadness that comes only from hope. "Then I'll wait." She hugged him, and when she pulled away, he pressed something into her hand, a small wooden pendant shaped like a feather. "Made it myself, so you'll have a piece of Willow Creek with you." She wanted to say something that could hold all the things she felt, but all that came out was, "Thank you." When she reached Los Angeles, the noise felt deafening. The city lights that once thrilled her now looked hollow. The gallery buzzed with critics, photographers, and agents. Her work, the product of years of effort, hung across white walls, framed and perfect. Everyone said she had outdone herself. But as she stood there, listening to the applause, she realized she felt nothing. Her photos were good, technically brilliant, but they were missing life. The one picture she wanted most to display, the candid photo of Jack fixing her car, smiling at something unseen, stayed tucked in her purse. That night, she sat alone in her apartment, surrounded by flowers and congratulations that meant nothing. The feather pendant rested in her palm, warm from her skin. For the first time, she understood that success without connection was just another kind of loneliness. Days turned into weeks again. Jack's messages came every few days, short, simple, sincere. Fixed Mrs. Caldwell's porch today. Max caught a squirrel. Don't worry, the squirrel's fine. They made her smile, but they also hurt, because every word reminded her of what she'd left behind. She'd write back late at night, trying to sound cheerful, but she could feel the distance between them stretching, like a rope pulled too tight. One evening, during a photo shoot on the beach, Emily's assistant asked her, "What's your next project?" For once, she didn't have an answer. She looked at the waves, endless and gray, and thought of Willow Creek, of the smell of rain and pine, of laughter under fairy lights, of Jack's steady voice saying her name like it meant something. That night, she opened her email to find one from Mrs. Caldwell. "Jack's fine," it began, "but I think he misses you more than he admits. He's been fixing up that old barn by the river. Says it's going to be a gallery one day. I think you'd like what he's done." She stared at the screen for a long time, her heart pounding. He was building a gallery. For her. For them. The idea felt impossible and yet perfectly right. She wanted to go back, but then came the fear. What if she went back and he had moved on? What if she was too late? Weeks passed again. Then one night, during a storm that mirrored the one from months ago, her power went out. Alone in the dark, she lit a candle and found herself staring at the photos on her wall. City skylines, portraits, perfection. They all looked empty now. Without thinking, she packed a small bag, grabbed her camera, and drove. The drive to Willow Creek felt endless. The rain came down hard, lightning slicing through the sky. But she didn't care. Every mile closer felt like breathing again. When she finally arrived, the town was asleep. The barn by the river stood lit from inside, warm light spilling through the cracks. She stepped inside and froze. The barn had been transformed into something magical. Fairy lights hung from the beams, and the walls were lined with photographs. Her photographs, not from the city, but from Willow Creek, the festival, the diner, the river, moments she didn't realize he'd captured through her lens. At the center, on an easel, was a single photo of her, laughing, her hair tangled by the wind, unaware of the camera. Beneath it, a note. Sometimes love is a photograph you don't realize you're in. Tears filled her eyes. "Jack?" she called softly. He appeared from behind the frame, wiping his hands on a rag, as if he'd been waiting for this exact moment. For her. "You found it," he said quietly. "I know," she nodded, speechless. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "You did all this? I just built the frame. You brought the light." She took a step closer. "I thought maybe I was too late." He shook his head slowly. "You were right on time." They stood there in the middle of the barn, surrounded by the quiet hum of rain and the memories they had built together. And when he reached out and touched her cheek, everything, the distance, the doubt, the noise of the city, disappeared. The kiss was gentle, unhurried, inevitable, the kind of kiss that feels like coming home after a long journey. For the first time in a long while, Emily knew exactly where she was meant to be. The morning after the storm, Willow Creek woke slowly, wrapped in fog and the soft hum of rain on rooftops. Emily opened her eyes to the smell of coffee and the sound of laughter drifting from the kitchen. For a second, she didn't remember where she was.
Then she saw the feather pendant on the nightstand, Jack's flannel draped over a chair, and it all came rushing back. She was home. Not the home she'd built out of glass and concrete in the city, but the one built of quiet moments and honest love. Jack was standing by the counter, making breakfast, his dog Max sitting faithfully by his feet. "You're up early," he said, turning to smile at her. "Couldn't sleep," she said, walking closer. "Didn't want to miss any of this." He handed her a mug. "It's not much," he said, "but it's ours." She smiled, sipping the coffee, letting the warmth seep into her hands and heart. Later that day, they walked through town together. The people of Willow Creek waved, smiling knowingly, as if they'd all been waiting for this story to find its ending. The harvest decorations were still up from the week before, and Mrs. Caldwell stopped them outside her diner, wiping her hands on her apron. "Well, would you look at that," she said, her eyes twinkling. "The city girl came back." "Looks like I did," Emily replied, "and I don't think I'm leaving this time." Mrs. Caldwell chuckled. "Knew it the moment you stepped foot here. Some places just choose you." They spent the rest of the morning by the river, sitting on the old wooden dock. The water glimmered under the pale sun, and the trees reflected like painted glass. Emily leaned her head on Jack's shoulder. "Do you ever wonder," she asked softly, "what would have happened if my car hadn't broken down that night?" He smiled. "You'd probably be somewhere taking pictures of skyscrapers. And you, probably fixing something that didn't really need fixing." He paused, and then looked at her. "But then again, maybe the universe doesn't make mistakes." She smiled, closing her eyes, breathing in the scent of pine and river. For once, the future didn't scare her. She didn't need a plan, she didn't need a map. She just needed this, the sound of his heartbeat, the peace of this town, the simple truth that she was exactly where she belonged. Over the next few months, Emily's life changed in quiet, beautiful ways. She decided to stay in Willow Creek, not to give up her career, but to reshape it. She turned the barn Jack had restored into a small art gallery and studio, filled with her photographs of the town and its people. Every picture told a story of laughter, rain, rebuilding, belonging. Tourists started to visit, drawn by the magic of her images. But for Emily, the real joy came from the simple moments, helping kids learn photography, hosting small exhibits, watching the sunsets that painted the town gold every evening. Jack was always there, building new frames, fixing whatever broke, and making sure she never forgot to take breaks to breathe and just live. They worked side by side, and sometimes in the middle of it all, he'd stop, leaned against the counter, and just watch her. "What?" she'd asked, smiling. "Nothing," he'd say, "just can't believe you're really here." Every once in a while, Emily would drive back to the city for meetings, exhibitions, or interviews. But no matter how far she went, she always came back, to the quiet road lined with pines, to the sleepy glow of Willow Creek, to the man who had turned a broken moment into something whole. One evening, about a year after she first arrived, the town held its harvest festival again. The same lights hung across the streets, the same music played by the river. Emily and Jack danced in the same spot where they'd first danced under the golden glow. Only this time, there was no hesitation, no distance. He twirled her around clumsily, and she laughed, the sound echoing through the night. When the song ended, Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "What's that?" she asked, breathless. He opened it, revealing a simple silver ring carved with a tiny feather, the same shape as the pendant he'd once given her. "I figured," he said, voice shaking just a little, "it's time I asked you to stay, officially." Tears filled her eyes. "Jack," she whispered, "you don't have to ask. I already chose to." He slipped the ring on her finger, and the crowd around them cheered, though Emily barely heard it. All she could see was him, the man who had quietly become her entire world. They kissed, the lights twinkling above them, the river humming softly nearby. And in that moment, it felt like the whole universe had paused to watch. Years later, people still talked about that love story. The city photographer who came for one night and stayed forever. The man who built her a home out of light and laughter. And every time someone new came to Willow Creek, they'd find her photographs hanging in the barn gallery, each one capturing not just faces or places,
but feelings, moments, and the invisible thread that connects two souls meant to find each other. Sometimes visitors would ask her, "What made you stay?" And Emily would smile and say, "Because one rainy night my car broke down and everything else fell into place." And on the nights when it rained, soft, gentle rain that sang against the rooftops, she and Jack would sit on the porch with Max sleeping by their feet, holding hands, watching the world blur softly around them. No grand endings, no dramatic music, just two hearts that had found their way home. Because sometimes love doesn't arrive in fireworks. Sometimes it comes quietly, like rain on a lonely road, like a stranger with kind eyes, like a town you weren't looking for, but were always meant to find.